Khatira today will be short about Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf is one of those surahs that our Prophet ﷺ praised in different ahadith. In one hadith he said that whoever memorizes the first 10, and in one version the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will be saved from the fitna of Dajjal. And so he commanded his ummah to memorize at least the first 10 or the last 10. There's an ikhtilaf in the riwayat, and to be on the safe side we should memorize both of them. That whoever memorizes these 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will be protected from the Dajjal. And our Prophet ﷺ also said that whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf on a Friday will have a light shining from him till the next Friday. So it is sunnah to read the surah every single week. That whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf on Friday will have a nur shining from him until the next Friday. Now the whole surah by the way is different stories, beautiful stories. The whole surah is different stories, different parables that Allah Azza wa Jal gives, and it's a very moving surah. And inshallah it is my goal to make an extensive tafsir of Surah Al-Kahf as we did for Surah Yusuf. I just want to comment on one story that I have given a khutbah about in more detail, but there's no haraj in reminding myself and yourself of some of those benefits in that story. And that is the story of Khidr and Musa. This is the only time in the Quran that Allah Azza wa Jal mentions Khidr. There's no other time in the Quran that Allah mentions Khidr. And Allah mentions him not by name, but by indirect allusion. That Allah says, there is a servant that we have given knowledge. عَلَّمْنَاهُ مِن لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. That we taught him knowledge from us. And the hadith literature tells us his name is Khidr or Khadr or Khudr. There's different ways to pronounce it. And the reason why he's called Khidr, Arabic of course Khidr and Khadr means green. The reason why he's called Khidr or Khadr is because wherever he would go, the world would turn green around him, as a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That wherever he would sit, the land would turn green. And so it would flourish from vegetation and vegetables. And so he was called the green, the Khidr. And that is the name that stuck. Now, Khidr is a personality that sadly so much superstition and legend has come around. And the fact of the matter is, all of this superstition and legend, there's no need to exist. The Quran and Sunnah is very clear in this regard. There's these legends that Khidr is a flying man who comes and goes as he appears. He's some mystical figure, he lives forever, he visits people in their dreams. No, all of this is legend. All of this is superstition, fairy tales. Khidr is a man, he's a human being. And Khidr is a prophet of Allah. He is a prophet of Allah, there is no doubt about that. And we'll explain why. And he lived a normal life and he died a normal death. And like all the other prophets, he came, he taught, and he went. And so he's not some type of mystical figure that appears and disappears. This is from fairy tales. This is not from our religion. We don't believe in these superstitious things. Khidr is a prophet, or he was a prophet of Allah. Now, our Prophet ﷺ told us that one day Musa stood up and he was giving a khutbah. And one of the people interrupted him and said, "Oh Musa, who's the most knowledgeable person on earth?" And so Musa instantaneously said, "I am." Immediately Jibreel came down to him and said, "How could you speak without knowledge? How could you?" Because he assumed. He has just assumed that I am the Prophet of Allah. Allah spoke to me, Allah took me up to Mount Tur, I spoke to him directly. How could anybody be more knowledgeable than me? So he's just assumed, and it was an honest assumption, which we excuse him for totally. I mean, obviously, who's going to be more knowledgeable than him? Apparently, that's what we think. Jibreel came down, this is what Prophet said, and said, "How could you speak without knowledge?" SubhanAllah, even Musa is being chastised for making the most obvious assumption, but Allah Azza wa Jalla says, "No, unless you know, don't speak." So Musa says, "Who's more knowledgeable than me?" And so Allah said, "There is a servant, we have taught him knowledge that we have not taught you." Notice, it's not like a competition that Khidr is better or Musa is better. No, it's that Musa, you have knowledge that Khidr doesn't have, but Khidr has knowledge that you don't have as well. The two of you, you have special knowledges. And of course this is Allah's wisdom, He gives to whomever He pleases. So as soon as Jibreel told him this, Musa asked permission from Allah, that can I go and find this man and study with him so that I can learn some of his knowledge. And this shows us so many benefits. It shows us the humbleness of Musa, that Musa instantaneously humbles himself. And he wants to do what? He wants to learn, he wants to study. There is no arrogance in the prophets of Allah. No arrogance. That as soon as he finds out that there's somebody who knows something he doesn't know, he wants to go study with him. This also shows us that the way you learn Islamic knowledge is by studying with a scholar, is by studying with somebody more knowledgeable. And this is a refutation of those who think that they simply meditate or they contemplate and knowledge will pour down upon them. It doesn't work that way. Knowledge is an academic study. You need to study the books of fiqh, tafsir, hadith. You need to be in the company of scholars. And so Musa studied with Khidr. He wants to go and study with Khidr. So Allah gave him a sign. You all know the sign, that you take the fish with you to eat, and wherever the fish disappears, that will be the place you will find Khidr. And you all know the story that the fish miraculously disappeared. Musa was with Yusha ibn Nun, who was to be the prophet after him, and at that point in time Yusha was a young boy, and the sign went and passed, and Yusha forgot to tell Musa. Eventually Musa comes back to that place and he waits for Khidr, and they find Khidr. And so Musa asks Khidr, قال هل لك أن قال هل لك أن أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا. That he said, can I follow you? هل لك or هل لي, what is it? هل لي أن أتبعك. Can I follow you? Right? Can I be with you? So that you can teach me that which Allah Azza wa Jal has taught you. And so Khidr says, قال لن تستطيع معي صبرا. You don't have enough patience to be with me. You won't have enough patience. So Musa says, قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا. Musa says, no, you'll find me a patient man, and I will never disobey anything you say. And so Khidr puts his condition. قال فإن اتبعتني, if you follow me, then do not ask about anything that I do until I tell it of my own will and accord. Don't ask. And then three things happen. You know these three things. The first of them, they go on a river or a ship or an ocean, and they cannot find a ride. Neither of them has any money, by the way. So they're asking for a ride to cross, and they find a group of poor fishermen who own a ship. And the fishermen say, okay, fine, yalla, we'll give you a ride, don't worry, we'll take you to the other side. And they're generous to Khidr and Musa, strangers. Khidr, Musa and Yusha, three strangers. They don't know who they are, they show generosity. What happens? Khidr, while they're fishing on the top of the ship, Khidr goes down and takes an axe out and starts hacking into the ship so that there's a hole in the ship. And Musa is shocked. He goes, قَالَ أَخَرَقْتَهَا لِتُغْرِقَ أَهْلَهَا. Have you just hacked a hole into the ship and the people are going to drown, and they were so kind to us and they did everything? How could you do this? And so Khidr says, didn't I tell you you wouldn't be patient? Right? And so Musa says, لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت. I forgot. Don't get angry at me. Give me a chance. Right? And so they're walking, they get off of the ship, and they're walking on the shore. Barely has Musa finished this conversation when Khidr finds a group of children playing, and he takes a child and he kills this child. And this clearly shows Khidr is a prophet, because nobody is allowed to kill an innocent person unless there's a direct commandment from Allah. And nobody in our times has a direct commandment from Allah. Only the prophets have direct commandments. And this is the explicit evidence that Khidr is a prophet, because nobody in any sharia can kill an innocent person. Isn't that true? Right? The only time that a person can do this is if Allah communicated directly with him. And who does Allah communicate with? Prophets. Right? If a person comes to the court and says, murderer comes and goes, oh, you can't punish me, God told me to kill this person. He's not going to be accepted. It's not, you cannot, our sharia is not this way. None of the sharias is this way. Only the prophets are allowed to do these types of things by the permission of Allah. Now obviously, Musa, he clearly remembered. This time he got, when Musa saw this, he had just said that, I'm not going to ask you, but this was too big of a deal. And he had to blurt out his look. He goes, أَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ. Have you killed an innocent soul? لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. You have brought forth a monstrosity. Now he did this knowing the condition, but he couldn't keep quiet. It was too much. It's an innocent soul. Khidr once again says, didn't I tell you? And there's an added emphasis here. Didn't I tell you before? قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ لَكَ. There's an added emphasis here. Didn't I already tell you that you couldn't be patient? And Musa says, one more chance. Give me 3 strikes and I'm out, basically. Right? Give me one more chance. And then, inshallah, that's it. After that, we will be parting our ways. If I fail you one more time. And so the third time, they're hungry, they're tired. The 3 of them walk into a village, and they don't have any money. It was the custom of the cultures of that time that beggars and strangers and travelers get free water and some basic bread. This is the custom of the time. Strangers walk into a city and the well, they're allowed to drink from the well. And they're allowed to get some basic bread as travelers, and then they move their way. And this was the law of the world that our Sharia actually enforced, that the guest has a right over you of 1 day generosity and 3 days room and board, as you know the hadith, right? This is the hadith that the law has come in this regard. So they came, they asked for some food, some bread, and the people were so stingy and miserly, they shooed them away. They made fun of them. They basically gave them the cold shoulder. And as they're walking out, and every city in that time had a walled fortress around it, Khidr finds one of the walls almost about to fall, and so he stops, he pauses, and he solidifies the wall. Now Musa is angry, humiliated, tired, hungry, thirsty, and he can't bear this. And he says, the least you could have done is get us our wages, i.e. some food for all that we have done. Yani they turned us away, and now you showed them this generosity. And Musa did not forget. He was very angry at the people for being so stingy. And so Khidr said, that was your condition, 3 strikes and you're out. قَالَ هَذَا فِرَاقُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنَكَ. This is, we're going to part our ways. Our Prophet ﷺ said, رَحِمَ اللَّهُ Musa. May Allah have mercy on Musa. If only he had been patient, he would have seen many strange things. If only he had been patient. But Musa was a little bit hasty in this regard, and Allah Azza wa Jalla will forgive him. It's not quite a sin with the condition he put. Our Prophet ﷺ said, if only he hadn't put that condition, he would have seen so many amazing things, and we would have been told about them. And so Khidr then explains, and in this explanation, there's wisdom for every one of us, brothers and sisters. The first story, Khidr says, as for the ship, it belonged to a group of poor people, as you know, and behind them, or coming up to them, was an unjust king who needed ships for his army, his navy. And he was confiscating, acquiring free of charge every single ship, basically stealing from the people. Every ship he was going to acquire for free. And therefore, by putting a small hole, enough for them to get back to the shore and be delayed in their fishing and have to patch it up, when the king got there, he would have seen the ship slightly damaged. What would he have done? Left it and moved on to the next ship. So by causing some property damage, I saved the entire property. And you didn't understand that. Allah told me this. You didn't understand that. Notice, the poor people were so generous. They shared their ship with these 3 strangers. The poor people were open-hearted. What did Allah do? The very instrument of their generosity was preserved, brothers and sisters. Think about that. What did they show generosity with? The ship. So what did Allah do? Protect the ship. You want more money? You give money to Allah. You want to do anything for the sake of Allah, Allah will bless you in kind and in deed. And that's why our Prophet ﷺ said, مَا نَقَصَ مَالٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ. When you give money, your money doesn't go down, it comes more. And the same applies for everything. Every barakah that you have, if you use it for Allah, Allah will increase the barakah. We learned this. The second story is the worst calamity that can happen to any parent, and that is to lose a child. Can you imagine the parents of this child, that they hear that some strange murderer has come, they would have thought deranged murder, like for no reason they just go and they kill a child on the beach playing with his friends, right? But Allah Azza wa Jal told Khidr that this child, his parents were righteous, and if he had grown up, he would have been the most rebellious and the most evil to his parents. So Allah decided to substitute this child for another one that would have been better for them, would have been merciful towards them. And this shows us, brothers and sisters, that never does Allah take something away except that He gives something better in its place. Look at this. The ayah is very clear. The ayah is very clear that your Lord wanted to substitute, not take away. When Allah Azza wa Jal takes something away, He always gives something better in its place. And this is the most painful of taking away, and that is a child. But we also know that perhaps even more painful than the death of a small child is the suffering that an older child will bring by being, as Allah says, طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. He would have been obstinate, rebellious, and a kafir. The pain that would have happened to the righteous parents to see their own child leave the faith, to see their child become so mean and so obstinate and so harsh. Perhaps it was even, of course it was better for them that Allah takes this one away and they have nothing but sweet memories of that child, and then another child is given to them and that child would be better for them. And therefore any musibah that happens to us, brothers and sisters, realize Allah has a wisdom and plan, and we don't know that wisdom and plan. And the final story, and that is the story of the wall that Khidr says, that section of the wall, it belonged to yatimain, it belonged to two orphans. وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا, and their father was a good man, a righteous man. And beneath this wall he had placed a treasure that nobody knew about. And if the wall had fallen down, these two orphans were too young to protect that treasure. The townspeople, they didn't give you bread, what would they have done to that treasure? If they didn't give you a glass of water, what would they have done to that gold underneath the wall? فَأَرَادَ رَبُّكَ أَنْ يَبْلُغَ أَشُدَّهُمَا. Your Lord intended that these two young orphans become strong men. When they become strong men, they would have destroyed the wall themselves for rebuilding it. They would have come across the treasure and they would then be able to benefit from it. So by fortifying this wall, I preserve the treasure for them. Now, put yourself in the shoes of this lady, the mother of these two orphans. How much she must have been begging and crying, where is the money? Where is the help? I need some help. How can I raise these orphans? And Allah knew that if her dua is responded to right then and there will be no money for her. And so the pain and suffering continues for a while, because it's only through that delay will they get the fruits of their patience. If Allah had given them the treasure right then and there, it would have been literally snatched from their hands as they're looking at it. And Allah knows that now is not the time. And in fact, when do they need it the most? When the children have reached maturity. That's when they need the treasure the most. Not when they're 5, 6 years old. When they're young men, when they're going to get married, when they have to purchase their own property. That's when they need the money the most. So Allah saved it for them. Notice in this story, وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. Their father was a good man. And therefore this shows us that being good brings about even material blessings to your own children. Not just religious, even material blessings. We worry about taking care of our children financially. And what does Allah say? Their father was a good man. And so because their father was a good man, Allah blessed their children with money when they needed it, right? And there's so many other wisdoms and benefits, and in the khutbah that I gave about these ayat, I derived many more benefits, but the bottom line is very simple. The moral of this whole story is, brothers and sisters, very simple. Those who have trust in Allah, those who are true believers in Allah, everything that happens to them, they know deep down inside that Allah has a plan, and oh Allah, whatever your plan is, I know that your plan is better for me than my own plan. I might not understand it, oh Allah. I might not understand, but a time will come when I will appreciate and understand. And the fact of the matter, brothers and sisters, is every one of us, I and you, every one of us, if you look back at your past incidents in life, if you look back at any calamity, any tragedy, any musibah 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, and ask yourself, where would I be if that musibah didn't happen to me? And you will realize, wallahi, that musibah was not a musibah. It was a blessing in disguise. Every single path that was blocked, Allah made another path that was better for you, and you are where you are today because of that blockage. Isn't that? We know this from our own daily life, right? The musibah of today is a mystery, but the musibah of yesterday, we thank Allah for. Alhamdulillah, that was such a good experience. Because of that, Allah blocked that, and now I'm over here, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that. And this is something we experience, we know for a fact, and yet still we don't benefit from our own experiences. Today when a calamity happens, why? What happened? We don't understand. But even in our own lives, it just requires some patience. Allah Azza wa Jalla's plan is better, and that's the whole beauty of being a believer in Allah, believing in qadr and qada, believing in that sixth pillar of iman, that وَنُؤْمِنُ بِالْقَدَرِ خَيْرِهِ وَالشَّرِّ. That's the whole beauty. Once you assign your fate to Allah and you put your trust in Allah, alhamdulillah, whatever happens, it is for the best. That is the sweetness and the beauty of being a Muslim, that your life and your fate and everything that you have, it is in the hands of Allah. And who better For who better to judge your fate and who better to decide your whole qadr other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be sincere to Allah, and Allah Azza wa Jal will show us the fruits of that sincerity. That is a simple story of Musa and Khadr. Wa jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.